Can someone please explain to me how Big Eddie Lampkin still has yet another year of eligibility left in him? This is going to be a sixth season of college basketball. No red shirts that I'm aware of, no injuries that I'm aware of, no JUCO years. I guess he has a COVID year, but is that enough to get a 6th year of eligibility? Someone please let me know how he is eligible to play college basketball next season. But we are back with another transfer portal update for you guys. And man, do we have a lot of commitments to go over. And after we go over some of these commitments, we got our top 10 players updated. Not only who's in the portal, but what teams are going after them. So yeah, guys, subscribe if you guys are new. Hit that like button if you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it. So our commitments from last week that we do have to update you guys on. Yaxel Lindenberg, one of the top players, in my opinion, maybe the top guy in the transfer portal, has committed to play for Michigan next season. Michigan, Dusty May, doing an excellent job in the portal. Got Elliot Cadeau earlier in the portal already, and now adding Yaxel Lindenberg. And this is a guy who's going to be able to play out of the post, rebound very well, average a double-double, 17 and 12, I'm actually pretty sure, and also can get you around 4 assists per game as a big man as well. Going to be a super solid player for Michigan this season. Cannot wait to see him play there. Also, 2 commitments for Kentucky. We have Jalen Lowe, the point guard from Pitt. He actually committed to Kentucky. That actually surprised me there. And Jaden Quaidance, a guy that I didn't even get to talk about much because he just re-entered the portal a couple days ago and has already made his decision that he is going to end up at Kentucky. A former 5-star recruit who was a freshman last season at Arizona State. A huge get there for Kentucky. A guy who can block some shots, be a big force down low, going to be excellent for Mark Pope this next coming season. Also, Jacoby Gillespie, as expected, did commit to Tennessee. We hit that one on the head there. Josh Dix also hit that one on the head as he does commit to Creighton. I actually thought that there was a chance he could go to Kansas if they were throwing a fat bag his way, but this feels like a perfect fit. Josh Dix at Creighton. I think that Coach McDermott is going to do wonders with him this upcoming season. Silas DeMary, we knew that he was visiting UConn. I actually made a crystal ball prediction for him to go to St. John's, another team that he was visiting, but he decided to go to UConn. Going to be an interesting dynamic there in the backcourt between him and returning star Solo Ball. That is going to be a very fun duo to watch this upcoming season. Keyshawn Hall, a very sought-after transfer from Central Florida, a guy who can put the ball on the floor very well, a very good dribbler, shooter off the dribble, as really a tall wing who can play either one of the forward positions and can stretch the floor as well, has committed to Auburn. So that is going to be very crucial for them as they are losing Janai Broome to kind of get that replacement there. Definitely a different type of player than Janai Broome, but a very solid player that Bruce Pearl can work with there. Jason Edwards, he is a Friar. That is right. He did commit to Providence. Good to see Providence get in on some action here and pick up some solid transfers. Jason Edwards was a 17-point per game scorer at Vanderbilt this past season. Helped lead them to the NCAA tournament. Looking forward to see what he can do in the Big East there at Providence next season. Now, to get into the rest of it, we have 10 players. Some of these guys we have talked about, but most of them we haven't talked about yet. They are newly in the portal. They are top guys in the portal, and we're going to talk about which teams are going after them. Coming in here at number 10, we do have a transfer from Jacksonville State, and that is Jiren Pierre Jr. Average over 21 points per game for the Gamecocks last season. One of the top transfers coming from the mid-majors, trying to jump to the Power 5 this upcoming season. Not only did he average 21 points per game, but also 5 rebounds and 4 assists per game. Going to be an excellent guard for whoever can pick him up. And it's looking like there are actually 3 confirmed visits for Pierre Jr., and that is going to be SMU, which could be interesting. They were, kind of getting close to being a bubble team in the NCAA tournament this season, so that would be a huge pickup for them, especially considering the teams they're fighting with to get him, and that is Ole Miss. I think that he would be great with Chris Beard there for the Ole Miss Rebels, and also Kentucky is going after him. We know Kentucky is going after a lot of people in the transfer portal. They could be throwing a lot of money his way, but they are also looking at some other prospects that we will be talking about later, and like I did mention, they did pick up Jaden Quaidance and Jalen Lowe already. So we will see who gets him. If I had to predict where he does go, I'm honestly feeling like he's going to go to either SMU or Ole Miss. Let me know what you guys think, where he's going to commit for this upcoming season. If I had to pick one right now, I think Ole Miss makes a lot of sense. I could really see him at SMU as well, but if I had to pick one, I'll go with Ole Miss right now. Next up, coming in here at number 9, we have a transfer from Michigan State. This is one of the more surprising transfers, I feel like, of this offseason, and that is Trey Holloman, a point guard there for the Michigan State Spartans. And I feel like the reason he is leaving is because Jeremy Fears is going to take over that starting point guard spot next season. And honestly, as he should, I definitely believe he is going to be the right guy for the next couple of years for Sparty to be that lead guard. So Trey Holloman wants to go somewhere where he can start. I feel like that is the reason, but he felt like somebody who was going to stay with Coach Izzo and stay on that Sparty teams and try to compete and make some deep runs into the NCAA tournament. He averaged 9 points per game and 3 assists per game last season. The teams that are really heavily pushing to get Trey Holloman are the Baylor Bears, North Carolina, NC State, and also Villanova. Some of these teams like Villanova and North Carolina are really looking at a couple of other guards as well, which makes me feel like they're not as safe as picks to get Trey Holloman. I kind of feel like he's NC State bound. That's just me. That could be a bold prediction there, but I feel like he could go to NC State. Maybe Will Wade is pulling some strings there, trying to get Trey Holloman. That's going to be my prediction for now. Next up, coming in at number 8, we have the first player that we have talked about before, and that is Rodney Rice. And it seems like we have a pretty good update on him at this point. Last season, averaged 13 points per game, 2 rebounds and 2 assists, and shot 37% from behind the arc, and he was only a sophomore last season for the Maryland Terps, and it is really looking like he is going to go join his former teammate in Jacoby Gillespie and play for Tennessee next season. That would be another super good get for Tennessee if they were able to pull in Rice with Jacoby Gillespie as well. He does have a visit scheduled for Tennessee here in the near future, and he was roommates with Jacoby Gillespie at Maryland, so it does make a lot of sense if they are really close. They want to play together again if he does follow his teammate there to Tennessee. Makes a lot of sense. That is going to be my prediction for Rodney Rice here right now. Next up at number 7, we have another player that we have talked about, not in the last video, but actually the video before. He's taken his good old time in the portal, which has not been the case for some of these players, and that is Mackenzie Mgbako, a transfer from Indiana, was a sophomore this past season, averaged 12 points per game and 4 rebounds per game. And again, he has taken one visit and has become pretty clear where he is going to play next season. It seems like it is going to be for BBN, the Big Blue Nation, Kentucky. Now, that has been the only visit I have been seeing. I would be surprised if he decides to go somewhere else. I think Mackenzie Mgbako is BBN bound for this upcoming season. Next up, we have a player that we have not talked about so far, and that is Xavian Lee, the transfer from Princeton. He is going to be a very sought-after transfer prospect, and whenever you hear how many teams are still in the mix for him, you will definitely see how sought after he is. He averaged 17 points per game, 6 assists per game, and 4 rebounds a game last season as a guard for the Princeton Tigers. And the teams I see really heavily pushing for him are going to be Florida, who just won the national championship. Shout out to the Florida Gators, winning their 3rd ever national championship in program history for men's basketball. Also, St. John's really pushing to go after him. I've seen Providence in the mix. I've seen Duke really in the mix for Xavian Lee. Stanford in the mix. BYU, Nebraska, Rutgers, and North Carolina. Now, of those teams, I think the top teams that I would predict for Xavian Lee to go to next season are going to be Florida, Duke, North Carolina, and St. John's. Those are the teams, and also Stanford. Stanford's in the mix as well. It makes a lot of sense. He's obviously a very smart guy, as he did go to Princeton. So if he were to go to a Power 5, maybe Stanford does make a lot of sense, as they are a very smart person school. Also, Duke makes a lot of sense. But I would say Stanford, Duke, St. John's, Florida, and also North Carolina are looking like maybe the top 5, I would say, at this point for Xavian Lee. But there are a ton of teams in the mix. It is pretty early to try to make a prediction on where he might go, but those are definitely some teams that are in the mix for him right now. Next up, we have a transfer, a guy that I did not realize had another year of eligibility, and that is the guy who led the Grand Canyon Antelopes to the NCAA tournament back-to-back years and led them to the second round last season, and that was Tyon Grant-Foster, obviously the former top recruit that did commit to Kansas. Then he went to DePaul and then played the last 2 seasons at Grand Canyon. He does have another year of eligibility somehow, but he did average 15 points per game and also 6 rebounds a game last year for the Antelopes. And some teams that I do see kind of pushing for him, it is still early for him as far as trying to figure out where he is going to end up. I have seen some Kansas fans really wanting to see them be able to bring back Tyon Grant-Foster. That would be a very interesting reunion. Also, Providence, I've been seeing going after him pretty heavily. Tennessee actually going after him pretty heavily, and also Alabama going after him. Nate Oates seen him up close and personal last season when Alabama was able to make their Final Four push. They did beat Grand Canyon in the second round in a very, very close game. That would definitely be pretty cool to see Nate Oates go back into the portal then and picking up a guy like Tyon Grant-Foster. Those are some teams that I do see in the mix. It is really early to try and make a prediction on Tyon Grant-Foster. If I had to make a way too early prediction, I'm between Kansas and Bama. I think a reunion with Kansas would be fun, but I think Alabama makes a lot of sense maybe for Tyon Grant-Foster to head, as Nate Oates has been able to put some guys into the NBA recently, and I do think that that is ultimately Tyon Grant-Foster's goal. So I'm going to make a way too early prediction for him and say Alabama. Next up at number 4, we have a transfer from the mid-majors, another guy that we have not talked about. And actually, all but our number 1 guy are guys that we have not talked about yet, and that is Malik Thomas, a transfer from the San Francisco Dons, who did average almost 20 points per game last season at 19. Also 4 rebounds and 2 assists as a guard last season, and there are a ton of teams really heavily pushing to go after him right now. The top teams that I am seeing right now are going to be Pitt, Missouri, South Carolina, Xavier, and NC State. But just about every Power 5 team is going after Malik Thomas right now. He is a very solid player from the mid-majors. Helped lead San Francisco to, I think, the 3rd seed in the West Coast Conference, just behind Gonzaga and St. Mary's. And yes, definitely going to be a very good player that does transition very well to the Power 5 conferences. Definitely way too early to try to make a prediction. If I did have to make a way too early one, honestly, a lot of these teams that I listed make a lot of sense. South Carolina's been spending some big bucks in the portal so far to be able to get some guys. I could see him head there. I could really see him play for Missouri. He seems like a guy who could thrive behind Dennis Gates and that high-powered offense. Pitt, I could see it. They did just lose Jalen Lowe. They're looking for a new guard. And a lot of their other guys, like Ishmael Leggett, was a senior, so that would make a lot of sense there. And then Xavier playing under Richard Pitino now, who did take that job, could be interesting as well. If I had to make a way too early prediction, I'm going to say he's a Dennis Gates guy. I'm going to say Malik Thomas could thrive in that Missouri offense. I think it would make a lot of sense. That is going to be my way too early prediction, but honestly, like I said, way too early to call. Next up at number 3, a guy that I was kind of shocked that he did enter the transfer portal, but whoever gets him is going to get an absolute stud, because I think this guy, Robert Wright III, was a freshman on Baylor, was a fantastic player. Most of the time he did come off the bench for the Baylor Bears, as there was some other guards on that Baylor team like a Jeremy Roach and VJ Edgecombe that was just able to start over him. I do think that he would be fine, and he would definitely start next year if he did return to the Baylor Bears to play under Scott Drew again. But he averaged 11 points per game and 4 assists per game. He is a very shifty guard, a very good playmaker, a guy who can create his own bucket. Whoever gets him is getting a absolute bucket. And the 4 top teams that I do see going after him are going to be Florida, Duke, BYU, and Villanova. So definitely some interesting teams. Again, shout out Florida, winning the national championship, looking to find their replacement, as Walter Clayton Jr. was a senior and is going to be entering the NBA draft. They do need a new point guard, and Robert Wright the third could be that guy. Also, Duke really looking to get him. I'm sure that they actually did recruit him pretty heavily out of high school, as he used to be a former high school teammate of Cooper Flagg, so that is pretty interesting there. Also, BYU, I think Robert Wright, I have been seeing that he is really good friends with AJ Dibansa, so that could be a pretty cool dynamic there, especially if Igor Demon does return to BYU, and they have Igor Demon, AJ Dibansa, Richie Saunders, and Rob Wright III. BYU might end up being a top 2 or 3 seed in March Madness next year, especially if they can get Rob Wright. They already have a very good roster lined up for next season already. And then Villanova. Villanova is looking for some guys. They just hired Kevin Willard as their head coach, and they are looking for some guys. They're looking to get back to that Villanova level that they were under Jay Wright. Kind of interesting there. Their Hall of Fame head coach, same last name as Robert Wright. If I had to make a prediction right now, I don't know if I'd say Florida maybe. I'm going to say Florida maybe gets their guy here in Robert Wright to replace Walter Clayton Jr. Where I would like to see him go, I'd like to see him go to BYU. And I don't think that's out of the picture. I think all 4 of these teams that I have listed have a good shot at this stud freshman point guard. Still a lot of eligibility, but honestly, you're probably getting 1 year out of this guy. He's probably going to have a fantastic season and enter the NBA draft after next season. Number 2, we do have another freshman guard that has entered the transfer portal, and that is from Chapel Hill, Ian Jackson. Averaged 12 points per game, 2 rebounds per game, and shot 40% from behind the three-point line. The 2 teams I see heavily pushing Ian Jackson are going to be St. John's and Arkansas. These 2 teams have Hall of Fame head coaches in Rick Pitino and John Calipari, and my prediction is going to be Arkansas. Ian Jackson, former 5-star freshman from last season, had a really good year. Another guy who's very shifty, a very good 3-point shooter. He seems like he is going to thrive under John Calipari. John Calipari is going to help him get to the NBA. It seems like a perfect fit, and I know that Rick Pitino does love his guards like this, and St. John's desperately needs to add some shooting this offseason. But I think they're going to strike out with this one. I'm going to predict that he does go to play for Arkansas Razorbacks next season. Ian Jackson could be the next guard for John Calipari to get to the NBA. And our number 1 guy is going to be a guy that we have talked about last video. He was our number 1 last video, and that is RJ Lewis. Now, RJ Lewis averaged 18 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists last season for St. John's. And we still don't necessarily know an update on which teams are potentially going for him. I definitely think that he is zeroed in on trying to go all out to get drafted to the NBA this offseason. But I do think if he does decide to return to college, stuff will come out on him very soon. But my one update that I do have on RJ Lewis that was not in the last video, I did say I do think there is a chance that he could return to play for St. John's and Rick Pitino next season. I kind of thought the media was blowing out the whole benching him situation in the second round of the tournament out of proportion, and it was just big storylines to talk about, and that's not actually why he's in the transfer portal, and I thought there was a chance he could return to St. John's. However, there was an interview that he did do. I'm not sure if it was on First Take, but he was talking with Stephen A. Smith, and he basically said that he thought he could have been coached up better in that game and maybe not benched, got benched. He could have, finished out that game and just got coached up better. And Stephen A. Smith straight up asked him, is that the reason you left? And he said no, but it definitely felt like he's not returning to St. John's, basically what I'm saying. It definitely felt that way. So if he doesn't enter the NBA draft, I do think that we will find out more news on which teams he could possibly be going to next season. I don't think it's going to be St. John's, though. I think it's going to be NBA draft or somewhere else, which hopefully we will find out soon. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for this transfer portal update. We're going to keep coming out with these every once in a while, hopefully every couple of days. If there is enough news, I will start working on the next video. But let me know what you guys think down below, and if you guys have any information on your guys' favorite team, on which transfers they might be trying to pick up or anything like that, let me know down below in the comments section. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.